Week 13 is here. There's only 2 more weeks of regular season fantasy football. We hope you are in the hunt to make your playoffs. We luckily have no buys this week, so all of your players are back. It's going to be a crazy week for football with football Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and Monday.
Woo woo. It's gonna
I'm
be a fun
excited.
week. Yeah, yesterday was a lot of fun too. We had some crazy games and missed field goals everywhere. I don't know what's up with kickers this year, but it's been a mess.
It has. I can't believe that the Dallas Cowboys took down the Commanders. That was not how I predicted that game
No.
going. And I mean, even the Vikings and Bears was competitive for the majority of that game, which I think was unexpected.
Well, kinda. I mean, they scored 11 points in 22 seconds, the Bears did, to
That's
close
the
it that
part that I was
close. That's when you were watching it? Was at the end when they closed it so close? And yeah.
yeah.
Eh, anyhow, it was fun. Hopefully, we get another 4 days of football like that. This
Yeah, and we have a fun DFS contest actually going this week on DraftKings where the winner's going to get a prize pack. So that's really exciting. It's going to be for the Thursday games. So go out, get your lineup set as soon as you're hearing this, and don't miss out. Check out
yeah,
our
well,
Thanksgiving DFS episode too if you need some inspiration or guidelines on how to set up your lineup for that.
let's run through some injuries. This week, you may not be looking to pick up and sub people in as much as other weeks because, like you said, we don't have anyone on bye, so it's all good. You can rely on whoever's in your lineup, and they're not just taking a week off, which is nice. Week 14 is going to be rough though, so start planning ahead if you haven't already. Every week, I think in this we've been like plan ahead, and again, you're going to get your opportunities here. So let's run through the injuries from Sunday. We had David Montgomery with the Detroit Lions, running back for the Detroit Lions, go out with a shoulder injury in the Colts game. And he suggested, and the team suggested, that it was just precautionary and that he'll play on Thursday. I know he's going to be like super motivated to be in that game on Thursday because he gets to face his old team, the Bears. And he'll be extra motivated to see what he can do against his old team, I would think. But that injury is still a little bit concerning. Shoulder injuries tend to make people miss time, and the fact that he left the game isn't real good. So definitely monitor his status, but I do like that he's saying, no, no, I'll be there. The other running back situation, we've been really good on running backs this year. And then this week, one team, not so good. So the Commanders, not only did they lose to the Cowboys, which is a little bit embarrassing, and it was their third loss in a row. So they're just literally falling apart here going down the stretch. Anyhow, they lost both of their running backs. So the Commanders lost Austin Eckler. He was returning kickoff and he was just running full steam up the middle of the field and got slammed. And he went down. He didn't move. Usually they start like moving after like 3 seconds or something. He just laid there face down, not moving. It was crazy. It was awful. It was really disturbing to watch. He did eventually leave the field with help and was woozy. So he's got a concussion. It's not his first concussion. He's probably going to miss, I would think, a couple games. They do have a bye week next week, so that will help the situation. But this week, they're playing. They also lost Brian Robinson Jr. for a period of time. He left the game initially after his first carry of the game when he was rolled up on with an ankle issue. And then he went to the locker room, got an x-ray, and he came back and went back in the game. I don't get that. If it's significant enough that you go in and you get an x-ray to see if it's broken, how do you just go, "Oh, it's not broken. I'm getting right back in that game." But they did it. That makes me feel like it's a little bit more severe than they initially thought in that game, and they needed him because they were behind. He only carried the ball 3 times for 15 yards. He clearly was not fine. So, we've definitely gotta monitor both of these running backs. At least one's gonna be out, if not 2, and that's gonna lead to our pickup in the next section of tonight's episode if you're looking for a running back who's up next.
Well, and moving off of running backs, Las Vegas has to be reaching deep for quarterbacks now because Gardner Minshew is out with a broken collarbone for the rest of the season. So that's AOC and Minshew are both out.
Yeah, AOC has a chance of coming back. He broke his thumb, but until then, we're going to see Desmond Ritter, which didn't work out so well in Atlanta last year, and he got shipped off to Vegas. And he didn't look so good over the weekend either when he came in for Minshew. So I hate that we're like going to have to watch Desmond Ritter, but it kind of looks that way because AOC, I don't think he'll be back this weekend, but I think next week or the following week he has a chance of returning. I guess that's an upgrade over Ritter. I don't know. Either way, hopefully
More and
you
more
weren't
places
playing.
might be looking to Daniel Jones.
Oh my. We're talking about all of these like they're options of starting in fantasy or that they're upgrades for any team. But I guess they're warm bodies that can throw a ball. So, and they're willing to take the paycheck and go out there and get hit. So, another injury, wide receiver injury, Josh Downs for the Indianapolis Colts. He went down on his shoulder. It was a pretty impactful hit. And then he immediately got up pointing to it. He returned to the game, but we often see these AC joint sprains where they will return to the game and then they miss 2 or 3 weeks. So I have a feeling he's going to be out a couple weeks, but definitely monitor his status. You probably weren't starting him either. And then one more. This one was a scary one. So one more injury to note where it was to the Carolina Panthers tight end, Jatavian Sanders. He landed on his head and his neck moved in a way that it shouldn't have moved. He laid there on the ground. They strapped him on a board. They took him off with his helmet still on, took him to the hospital. He was later cleared and released from the hospital, so that's good. He also has a concussion on top of the neck injury, so I wouldn't look to be playing this tight end anytime soon. There were probably better tight ends anyway that you were playing.
We saw some tight ends have another stellar day.
We did. Yeah. It was almost, the second national tight end day yesterday, especially early on. It was all tight ends getting the action.
Well, as we switch to who you can pick up if you are either finding yourself thin due to injuries or planning ahead for week 14, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss us and you'll get all the news this week for Thanksgiving and through the rest of the season.
So let's go into who's out there that you might want to pick up. Wide receiver wise, we have Marquez Valdez-Scantling in New Orleans. They were on bye last week, so we kind of forgot that he had that really great game the week before. He didn't have a lot of targets, but because they don't have any other wide receivers and he does offer the team a deep threat, he's on our list. He's 76% available in leagues. And next up, he gets the Rams and then the New York Giants and then Washington. All great matchups for him and New Orleans. So I do like his matchups coming up. I feel like he's hit and miss because we've been down this path before with Valdez Scantling, and he throws up a great game and then he throws up a dud game. So he is really hit and miss. But if you've got the bye weeks coming up, he may be a good ad because he does get to play the Giants in week 14.
And then that Carolina Kansas City game, I think, gives us Adam Thielen, who's back now.
Thielen did come back, and not only did he come back, but then they made Jalen Coker inactive, really giving, the priority to Adam Thielen. He didn't have a ton of targets on Sunday, but he was involved in the game, and I imagine they'll continue to get him more involved. And the Panthers have really been surprising everyone lately and looking better and better. They at least pushed the Chiefs a little bit and made it competitive on Sunday, so it was fun. We almost got an overtime out of that game, but I think that Thielen, we kind of forget that this time last year, he was one of the top 10 wide receivers in the league and doing really well. He's definitely worth a shot because this weekend they're going to play Tampa Bay, and we know what Tampa Bay is capable of, at least when it doesn't look like, Tommy DeVito throwing passes. That was a disaster. But Tampa Bay can give up some points, especially through the air. And after that, they have Philly. So you might want to bet in week 14 is not so good, but then they get to play Dallas as well. So both Tampa Bay and Dallas at home in Carolina. I do like those two matchups.
And our last one's a favorite of ours, Keon
It is.
Coleman.
I
He's
don't know how
57% available.
yeah, he keeps like getting dropped because he was hurt. So he missed 2 games before the Bills bye week with that wrist injury. But he's clearly becoming a favorite for Josh Allen. And they're going to be looking to win some more games and look strong going into the playoffs for sure. So they next up for them are the 49ers, then the Rams, and then Detroit. So not as easy of matchups, but definitely matchups that they're going to need to push it and throw the ball and be competitive in.
And San
We do
Francisco
love.
did not look like themselves last weekend.
They did not. No. They're going to have to look to get Purdy back.
Yeah.
But that whole situation's a little bit of a mystery because it does seem like that injury on Purdy is a little bit more significant, maybe, than the 49ers want to tell us. What, like the 40, do we expect to get the truth from the 49ers on injuries?
Not at all. Not
Otherwise,
after the
yeah,
beginning of the season.
we don't learn when they tell us about McCaffrey, apparently, that they're not going to tell us the truth on injuries and they shouldn't be trusted. So who knows what the situation really is with Purdy. Let's move on to running backs, which I don't have a lot for you. So it's Jeremy McNichols in Washington, and that's it. That's the only one on my list that I actually like. We have some that you might stash if you've got a spot available for the upcoming weeks if you're going to be entering those playoffs. But Jeremy McNichols is the only one that I can say this week if you need a replacement. He should be 99% available in leagues. They are playing Tennessee this weekend. Then they have their bye week, and then they get to play New Orleans, which is another great running back matchup. But they'll probably have either Austin Eckler or Brian Robinson back in week 14, one of them for sure. If he gets to have the whole backfield this weekend, this is great for him, and he would have a great matchup against Tennessee. The projections that I've seen, I mean, this is Monday, so we haven't really had any injury news yet, but they're like projecting him at 1.3 points. Obviously, if Eckler and Robinson are out, that changes. So you have a great chance right now to find him, but you can't just be going in and sorting by projected points for this weekend. You're going to have to go looking for him. He's going to be down on the list right now. We've seen that he's had a great game this year when Eckler was out in week 4. I think he had 19 fantasy points. The Commanders have also lost the last 3 games. They've got to get that rushing game more involved. Jaden Daniels can't be expected to do everything. And he even rushed for 74 yards on Sunday, too. So they need a running back to step up and run that ball. If we're stashing, then we can't forget about Zach Charbonnet, the backup to Kenneth Walker. Walker is often injured. And if he gets injured, Charbonnet gets everything. So if you're stashing, he's a great stash to have going into the playoffs, as well as Blake Corum for the Rams. He's the backup to Kyron Williams, who is clearly getting all of the carries, even though Williams is super inefficient and has one of the lowest yards per carry of any running back that we have in the NFL. So we could see them use Blake Corum a little bit more, or at least if Kyron Williams gets injured, then maybe Corum's going to step into that role. Quarterbacks, Cooper Rush. If you're in a bind, we
I
could
feel like
pick up
there's better
Cooper
options
Rush.
here. I mean,
You know, so in week 14, I've got a situation. I don't carry 2 quarterbacks, and I've got to pick somebody up. And apparently, everyone in my league wants to stash quarterbacks, and I tried to trade, and that didn't work out. They were too afraid of being stuck with an injury. So I don't have a quarterback for week 14. I have to pick somebody up. And it may come down to Cooper Rush or Jameis Winston. And then it's all about matchup. Cooper Rush is going to be facing Cincinnati Bengals in week 14, and it's going to be at home in Dallas at least. He hasn't looked bad the last 2 weeks. He's put up good numbers. So why wouldn't I want to start him in a game against the Bengals, who have given up lots of passing yards as well? He also gets to play the Giants this week, which isn't awful as either. I like that Giants matchup. I like the Bengals matchup. And after that, he gets to play the Carolina Panthers. So he's got 3 great matchups coming up. I know we're just like, no, it's Cooper Rush. I'm not playing him, but he's 95% available, and I may be turning to him week 14.
We'll see who ends up on our waiver wire and if you have to go with that option or not.
Only might have to. I might pick him up this week just so I have somebody to play because there's only like 3 starting quarterbacks, and I don't want to be stuck with Desmond Ritter or something. I'd rather have Cooper Rush than Desmond Ritter for sure. Anyhow, tight ends. We've got one. Noah
Noah
Gray.
Gray.
He had 2 touchdowns against the Panthers, and he's, Travis Kelsey's double. Kelsey got a little perturbed with Patrick Mahomes this weekend that he wasn't getting the ball. I don't know. He wasn't real happy. He's Noah Gray's still only seeing like 4 or 5 targets, but they're coming at really good times, and he's making the most of them for sure. Next up, they get to play the Raiders, then the Chargers, and then Cleveland. All games they're going to be trying to win, although they're a little bit ahead. But Buffalo, I'm sure, is going to be pushing them for the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Let's chat streaming defenses.
It's another week where I don't like the streaming defense options. You've got the Chargers, who next up this weekend they're at the Atlanta Falcons. And the Falcons offense seems to have stalled and not be doing a whole lot. But they're coming off a bye week. Don't really like that. We'll see what the Chargers can do tonight against the Ravens. That's going to be kind of crazy and exciting. And the only other thing I can say about the Chargers in week 13 is they're the West Coast team coming to play the East Coast team, which usually fares pretty well. So I do like that. After that, they have to play Kansas City and Tampa Bay. So it would really be just a option for this week. And hopefully you do have better. The only other one that I could come up with were the Dallas Cowboys because they play the New York Giants on Thanksgiving Day this week. So they're at least at home and they're playing Tommy DeVito. And that's about all that's good about the Cowboys.
I'd also say if you're stuck playing your defense on Thursday, at least then you'll know how many points you got or lost to your defense from taking that risky option. So you could go and try to rework your fantasy team if you need to for Friday through Monday.
Yeah, you could take a few more risks if you were way behind.
Well, I think that wraps us up for our Week 13 waiver wire. We have that DFS episode coming out shortly for our Thanksgiving special, and we have a DraftKings contest going with a prize pack reward. We'd love to have y'all join us in our DFS contest, our free DFS contest this week. You can find the links in our description. And if you are headed to the waiver wire this week, good luck. Congrats on no one being on bye at least.
Yay. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Enjoy 4 days of football.